They needed a girl, so they chose me. The day they told me I had to become a girl, I thought it was a joke. Cruel joke. Kind rich people make when they're bored. But when the door behind me locked with a quiet click, and the woman across the table slid a contract toward me, I realized something terrifying. They weren't joking. And somehow, my entire life now depended on whether I agreed. Let me explain how everything went so wrong. 3 months ago, I was desperate. Completely broke. My rent was overdue, my bank account had less than $50, and the job market had rejected me so many times that I had stopped checking my email. Then I saw the ad. Personal assistant needed. High salary. Discretion required. The salary was insane. $1,000 a month. For someone like me, that kind of money felt like winning the lottery. I didn't question it. That was my first mistake. The interview was held in a massive glass building downtown. Kind where security guards wear suits and the floors shine like mirrors. When I stepped into the office, I expected to see a typical corporate boss. Instead, I saw her. Victoria Hale. One of the richest women in the city. Her name alone made headlines. She owned fashion companies, tech startups, and half the real estate downtown. And somehow, she was interviewing me. She studied me carefully from across the desk. Not like a normal interviewer. More like someone examining a product. Her eyes slowly moved from my hair to my face to my body. Then she smiled. Not warmly. Strategically. Interesting, she murmured. I shifted uncomfortably in my chair. Is something wrong? I asked. She tapped a manicured finger on the table. Tell me, she said calmly, how desperate are you for money? That question should have made me walk out immediately. But desperation makes people stupid. Pretty desperate, I admitted. Her smile widened. That's good. Then she pressed a button on her desk. The door opened, and 3 women walked into the room. Stylists, makeup artists, and what looked like a fashion consultant. They surrounded me like sharks circling prey. One lifted my chin. Another examined my hair. The third stepped back and tilted her head. Bone structure is good, she said thoughtfully. Height works too. I frowned. Wait, what is this? Victoria leaned back in her chair. Calm. Confident. Like she had already won. We need someone, she said slowly, to play a very specific role. What kind of role? She slid the contract across the desk toward me. When I read the first line, my stomach dropped. You will live as a woman for 1 year. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Okay, good one, I said. No one else laughed. Victoria simply watched me. Silent. Cold. That's not a joke, she said. The room suddenly felt 10 degrees colder. You're serious? I asked. Completely. My brain struggled to process what she had just said. You want me to, what? Dress up as a woman? Not dress up, she corrected. Become one. The stylists had already started whispering among themselves. She could pass easily. With the right training. A little hormone therapy, maybe. My heart started racing. Hold on, I said, standing up. This is insane. Victoria didn't react. She simply folded her hands. If you walk out that door, she said calmly, you leave with nothing. She tapped the contract. But if you sign this, you leave with $2 million. $2 million. The number echoed in my mind like thunder. My entire body froze. $2 million would solve every problem I had. Debt. Rent. My future. But the cost. Why? I asked quietly. Victoria leaned forward. And what she said next changed everything. Because my company needs a daughter. The words made no sense. You have children. I do, she said. But none of them can publicly inherit my fashion empire. I frowned. So? She gestured toward me. We create one. The realization hit me like a truck. You want me to pretend to be your daughter? Exactly. And the girl part? Her smile returned. That's where you come in. The room was silent. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. You have the right height, the right build, and the right face. The stylist nodded. With training, makeup, and wardrobe, she'll be stunning. She. Not he. She. I looked around the room. The door was locked. The women were already discussing dresses. And Victoria was watching me like a chess player waiting for the final move. You have 1 hour to decide, she said calmly. I stared at the contract again. $2 million. In exchange for my identity. In exchange for becoming someone else. A girl. Victoria stood up. Think carefully. Then she added the sentence that made my blood run cold. Because once you sign. Her eyes locked onto mine. There's no going back. And that was the moment I realized something terrifying. They didn't just want a daughter. They had already chosen one. Me. The hour they gave me to decide felt like the longest hour of my life. I sat alone in that silent office, staring at the contract while my mind fought a war with itself. $2 million. The number kept echoing in my head like a heartbeat. $2 million meant freedom. It meant I'd never worry about rent again. It meant I could help my family. It meant every problem that had been crushing me for years would suddenly disappear. But the price, my identity, my life, my name, and somehow becoming someone else entirely. A girl. I remember staring at my reflection in the glossy black table. Messy hair. Tired eyes. A guy who had spent the last year failing at everything. What exactly was I protecting? Pride? Dignity? Those things didn't pay the bills. The door opened again. Victoria walked back in, calm as ever. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask how I felt. She simply looked at the contract. Time's up. My hands were shaking. Is this even legal? I asked. Victoria shrugged slightly. You're an adult. You're agreeing voluntarily. And you'll be compensated very generously. Her tone was coldly practical. Like this was just another business deal. Why me? I asked quietly. Because, she said, you're exactly what we need. She slid a pen toward me. The room went silent. I should have walked away. Any sane person would have. But when I thought about going back to my empty apartment, my unpaid rent, my broken life, my hand moved. And before I could stop myself, I signed. The moment the pen left the paper, Victoria smiled. Not the calculating smile from earlier. This one was something else. Victory. Excellent, she said. And suddenly the room exploded with movement. The stylists rushed back in. Let's start immediately. Oh my God, we have so much work to do. Her hair alone will take hours. Her. They kept saying her. My brain barely had time to react before someone grabbed my arm. Come with us. Wait, I protested. What's happening? Your transformation, the stylist said excitedly. You can't expect to become a daughter overnight. They led me down a long hallway into another room. And when the door opened, I froze. It looked like a luxury fashion studio. Racks of dresses, rows of high heels, makeup stations, mirrors everywhere. One stylist clapped her hands. All right, everyone, let's meet our new project. The others gathered around me. I suddenly felt like a mannequin being inspected. This is going to be fun, one said. Another circled me slowly. First things first. She grabbed my shoulders and turned me toward a mirror. Take a good look, she said. I did. A normal guy stared back. Confused. Nervous. Still me. For the last time, she added softly. Then the makeover began. My hair was the first casualty. A stylist ran her fingers through it thoughtfully. We'll grow it out later, she said, but for now, snip. The scissors started moving. Not cutting it short. Shaping it. Layering it. Turning my messy hair into something softer, more elegant. Another stylist worked on my eyebrows. Relax, she said. Tweezers snapped. Tiny sharp pains. But when she stepped back, my face already looked different. Cleaner. More delicate. I swallowed nervously. What exactly are you doing to me? The makeup artist answered. Creating someone new. Then she began applying foundation. Brushes moved across my skin. Warm powders. Soft colors. My reflection slowly started changing. My jawline looked softer. My cheekbones more defined. My eyes larger somehow. I kept staring at the mirror, unable to look away. See, the makeup artist smiled. You have a naturally pretty face. Pretty. That word hit differently. But they weren't finished. Not even close. One of them returned holding something silky. A dress. Black. Elegant. Time for the real test. I immediately shook my head. No way. Relax, she said. It's just clothes. But my heart was pounding. I've never worn something like that. Well, she said cheerfully, there's a first time for everything. Before I could argue, they handed me the dress and pointed toward a changing room. Go on. My legs felt heavy as I walked inside. The small room had a mirror on the wall. I stared at the dress in my hands. Soft fabric. Light. Feminine. This was insane. What was I doing? But then I remembered the contract. The money. The life waiting at the end of this year. Slowly, reluctantly, I changed. And when I stepped out, the room went quiet. All the stylists stared at me. Then one of them whispered something that made my stomach flip. Oh my God. What? I asked nervously. She pointed toward the mirror. Look. I turned. And for a moment, my brain stopped working. 'Cause the person staring back at me wasn't the same guy who had walked into this building. The dress hugged my body perfectly. The makeup softened my face. The hairstyle framed my features. And somehow, shockingly, I looked like a girl. Not a joke. Not a costume. A real one. My mouth slowly opened. This can't be real. The stylists were smiling proudly. Victoria appeared in the doorway again. She studied me carefully, then nodded. Perfect. My voice trembled. What happens now? She walked closer. There's just one last thing. She held out a folder. Inside it was a new identity. New documents. New photos. New life. I looked at the name printed on the top, and my heart nearly stopped. Emily Hale. Victoria's daughter. She looked directly into my eyes. From this moment forward, she said calmly, you are Emily. And somehow, that was the most terrifying part of all. The next morning, I woke up in a bedroom that didn't belong to me. For a few seconds, I thought the whole thing had been a dream. Then I saw the closet. It was enormous, and every inch of it was filled with dresses. Silk. Satin. Designer labels I couldn't even pronounce. High heels lined the shelves like an army waiting for orders. Handbags, jewelry, makeup, things I had never paid attention to in my life. My stomach dropped. Right. This was real. I wasn't going home. I wasn't going back to my old life. I was living here now in Victoria Hale's mansion as her daughter. A knock came at the door. Before I could answer, it opened. "Good morning, Emily." It was one of the stylists from yesterday. She walked in holding a tray. Coffee, fruit, and something else. Pair of high heels. I immediately sat up. "Oh no." She smiled sweetly. "Oh yes." She placed the heels on the bed. "Today we start training." "Training?" "Yes," she said matter-of-factly. "You can't be Victoria Hale's daughter if you walk like a guy who just got out of a gym." I groaned. "This is insane." But she didn't care. Within an hour, the entire team had arrived. The makeup artist, the fashion consultant, and someone new. A tall, elegant woman who carried herself like a runway model. "This," the stylist said, "is Clara." Clara smiled politely. "I'll be teaching you how to move." "Move?" "Yes," she said simply. "How to walk, sit, stand, smile, gesture." I blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely." She handed me the heels. "Put them on." My heart sank. I had never worn heels before. I picked them up carefully. They looked dangerous. "Relax," Clara said. "Everyone struggles at first." I slipped them on slowly. The moment I stood up, my balance disappeared. I stumbled forward and nearly crashed into the wall. The room burst into laughter. "Okay," Clara said, trying not to laugh. "Maybe we start slower." For the next 3 hours, I learned something humiliating. Walking in heels is hard. Every step felt like a balancing act. My legs wobbled. My posture was terrible. At one point, I tripped so badly I ended up sitting on the floor. "This is impossible," I complained. Clara shook her head. "No, Emily. It's practice." She stood beside me and demonstrated. Her movements were smooth, elegant, graceful. "Watch carefully," she said. Then she guided me. Shoulders back. Smaller steps. Hips relaxed. Again, and again, and again. By the end of the session, I could walk across the room without falling. Barely. The stylists applauded dramatically. Progress! But the torture wasn't finished. Next came voice training. A speech coach arrived that afternoon. He introduced himself as Daniel. He sat across from me with a small recorder. "Say something." "Like what?" I asked. "Anything." I sighed. "This is ridiculous." He replayed the recording. A deep male voice filled the room. Daniel nodded. "That's what we're fixing." For the next hour, he taught me something I never thought about before. Pitch, tone, speech patterns. "Try again," he said. "Hello, my name is Emily." I tried. "My name is Emily." He shook his head. "Too low." Again. "My name is Emily." "Too forced." Again. "My name is Emily." Better. It was exhausting. But slowly, something strange began happening. My voice started sounding different. Lighter. Softer. More feminine. When Daniel played the recordings side by side, even I could hear the change. "That," he said proudly, "is progress." But the real test came that evening. Victoria called me into her office. She studied me carefully. The dress, the hair, the makeup. Then she nodded. "Good." My stomach twisted. "What?" "You're ready." "For what?" She smiled slightly. "Your first public appearance." The words hit me like a punch. "No way." "Yes way." My heart started racing. Absolutely not. Victoria leaned back calmly. You signed a contract. I know, but you will attend a dinner tonight. With business partners. As my daughter. I stared at her in disbelief. You're serious? Completely. Panic flooded my chest. What if they notice? They won't. What if I mess up? She gave a small smile. Then you learn. 2 hours later, I was standing in front of a mirror again, this time wearing a stunning navy blue dress. My hair was styled perfectly, makeup flawless, jewelry glittered around my neck. And somehow, I looked beautiful. The realization made my heart race. Clara stood behind me adjusting the dress. Remember what I taught you. Small steps. Confidence. Smile. I swallowed nervously. This is insane. She squeezed my shoulder. You'll be fine, Emily. Emily. That name still felt foreign. But when Victoria entered the room, she looked proud. Perfect, she said. Then she offered her arm. Shall we? I hesitated. This was it. The moment where the world would see me as someone else. The moment where I stopped being the old me and started living as Emily Hale. My heart pounded as we walked toward the car. What if someone recognizes me? I whispered. Victoria didn't even look concerned. They won't. Car pulled up to a luxury restaurant. Bright lights. Valet parking. People in expensive clothes. My palms were sweating. Victoria leaned closer and whispered something in my ear. Smile. The door opened. And as I stepped out of the car, dozens of eyes turned toward me. A man near the entrance smiled politely. Good evening, Miss Hale. Miss Hale. He opened the door for me. And for the first time in my life, someone treated me like a woman. The realization sent a strange shiver through my body. Victoria whispered again. See. Then she added something that made my heart race even faster. They believe it. And somehow, so did I. That dinner should have been terrifying. And it was. But something else happened that night, something I wasn't prepared for. No one questioned me. Not once. The moment we walked into the restaurant, people smiled politely. They greeted Victoria with respect and me with curiosity. Victoria, a man said warmly as we approached the table, you never told us your daughter was visiting. Victoria squeezed my arm gently. Emily just returned from studying abroad. Studying abroad. Apparently, I now had an entire fake life. The man looked at me and smiled. Nice to meet you, Emily. My throat felt dry. Nice to meet you too, I said softly. My voice sounded right. Not forced. Not awkward. Just natural. And that terrified me. Throughout the dinner, the conversation flowed easily. Business deals. Fashion shows. Corporate drama. But every so often, someone would turn to me. And what do you think, Emily? My heart would race. But I answered. Carefully. Calmly. And every time I spoke, people nodded thoughtfully. They believed it. They believed me. When dinner ended, one of the women at the table leaned closer and whispered something that completely caught me off guard. You're stunning, by the way. I blinked. Sorry. She smiled. That dress looks incredible on you. My face immediately flushed. No one had ever complimented me like that before. Not in my entire life. Thank you, I said awkwardly. Victoria watched the interaction quietly. And when we finally returned to the car, she glanced at me with a knowing smile. You handled that well. I was terrified, I admitted. But you succeeded. She paused. And people liked you. The word liked echoed strangely in my mind. Because the truth was, something about that night felt different. Exciting. Dangerous. But exciting. The next few days passed in a blur of training and appearances. Photo shoots. Charity events. Business meetings. And every single time, I was Emily. First it felt like acting. Like wearing a mask. But slowly, the mask started feeling more natural. More comfortable. And that's when the secret exploration began. Late at night, when everyone else in the mansion was asleep, I would sneak into the enormous dressing room. First it was curiosity. Nothing more. I'd stand in front of the mirror, staring at the endless rows of clothes. Dresses. Skirts. Blouses. Outfits worth more than my old monthly rent. One night I reached out and touched a red dress hanging near the front. The fabric was soft. Silky. Elegant. My heart started beating faster. "What are you doing?" I whispered to myself. But the question didn't stop me. I took the dress down. Slowly. Carefully. Then I stepped into it. The zipper slid up my back with a quiet sound. When I turned toward the mirror, the girl staring back looked confident. Beautiful. Almost powerful. "This isn't real," I muttered. But my reflection didn't seem fake anymore. It looked natural. Like the person in the mirror belonged there. I experimented more after that. Different outfits. Different hairstyles. Sometimes I tried new makeup styles, remembering the techniques the artists had shown me. The first time I managed to create a full makeup look by myself, I stared at the mirror in disbelief. "Okay," I whispered. "That's actually impressive." But the real surprise came when I started going out alone. Not as part of Victoria's events. Just quietly. One afternoon I slipped out of the mansion wearing sunglasses and a simple white dress. Nothing flashy. Just casual. My heart pounded the entire time. What if someone recognized me? What if someone saw through the disguise? But no one did. People passed by without a second glance. And something strange happened while I walked through the city. Men held doors open for me. A barista smiled warmly. "Hi there. What can I get you?" I almost forgot how to speak. "A latte," I said softly. "Sure thing." He handed me the drink a moment later. "Have a great day." Simple interaction. Normal. But to me it felt surreal. 'Cause everyone saw me as Emily. Not the struggling guy I used to be. Not the desperate person who had signed that contract. Just Emily. Later that afternoon, something even more shocking happened. I was browsing in a small boutique when another girl walked up to me. She smiled warmly. "That dress looks adorable on you." My brain froze. "Thank you," I replied automatically. She continued chatting casually. "Where did you get it? What brands do you like? Are you from the city?" Conversation felt natural. Normal. By the time we said goodbye, she waved cheerfully. "Maybe I'll see you around." And just like that, she walked away. I stood there for several seconds, completely stunned. That girl had just treated me like any other woman she met in a store. No suspicion. No confusion. Just normal conversation. When I got back to the mansion that evening, I went straight to the mirror. I studied my reflection carefully. The hair. The makeup. Posture. The dress. And for the first time since this whole crazy situation started, I asked myself a dangerous question. What if? My voice was barely a whisper. What if I don't hate this? The thought scared me more than anything else that had happened so far. Because the contract said I had to live as Emily for 1 year. But what it didn't say was what would happen if I didn't want to go back. And that possibility was starting to feel a lot more real than I expected. For the first few weeks, everything felt like a strange dream. I woke up in luxury. I wore beautiful clothes. People treated me with respect, admiration, sometimes even envy. Emily Hale was becoming real. Too real. And that's exactly when my old life decided to come back and destroy everything. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Victoria had sent me to attend a charity gallery opening downtown. Nothing major, just smile, shake hands, and look like the elegant daughter of a powerful woman. I had done it a dozen times already. By then, walking in heels didn't scare me anymore. My posture was natural. My voice sounded completely like Emily. Sometimes even I forgot the person I used to be. The gallery was full of wealthy guests, champagne glasses, and soft classical music. People greeted me politely. "Emily, lovely to see you again. You look beautiful tonight. Your mother must be very proud." I smiled gracefully, just like Clara had taught me. "Thank you. That's very kind." Everything was perfect, until I heard a voice behind me that made my entire body freeze. "Alex." My heart stopped. Alex. That was my real name. The name I hadn't heard in weeks. Slowly, very slowly, I turned around. And there he was. Mark. My old roommate. My best friend from before all of this happened. He was staring at me with complete confusion. His eyes moved across my face, my hair, my dress, my heels. Then he said the worst possible thing. "What the hell?" Panic exploded inside my chest. Think. 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 I forced a polite smile. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "I think you have the wrong person." But Mark wasn't stupid. He stepped closer. Too close. "Alex," he whispered. My hands started shaking. "I don't know who that is." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. Not happily. More like someone who had just seen something impossible. "This isn't funny." People nearby were starting to look at us. Whispers spread quietly around the room. My mind was racing. If Mark exposed me here, everything would collapse. Contract. Victoria's plan. My new life. All of it. "Please leave," I said quietly. Mark shook his head. "No." His voice lowered. "What did they do to you?" That question hit harder than anything else he could have said. Because I didn't know how to answer it. Did they force me? Did they change me? Or had I walked into this willingly? Before I could respond, a calm voice interrupted. "Is there a problem here?" Victoria. She had appeared beside us without me noticing. Mark looked at her. "Yeah," he said bluntly. "There is." He pointed directly at me. "That's my friend." Victoria's expression didn't change at all. "You must be mistaken." "I'm not mistaken." Mark turned back toward me. "Tell her your name." My heart was pounding so loudly I thought everyone could hear it. Victoria looked at me calmly. Waiting. Watching. Testing. The room was completely silent. Everyone nearby was staring. Waiting for my answer. For a moment, my entire past and present collided inside my mind. Alex. Emily. Two different lives. Two different identities. Two different futures. Mark whispered again. "Alex, tell them." But Victoria spoke softly beside me. "Emily." Choice was mine. Right there. Right then. My voice trembled slightly. "My name." I looked directly at Mark. "My name is Emily Hale." His face went pale. "You're lying." Victoria placed a calm hand on my shoulder. "I believe you're confusing my daughter with someone else." Mark stared at me for several long seconds, searching my face, looking for the friend he used to know. But I didn't give him anything. No hesitation. No recognition. Finally, he stepped back slowly. This is insane. Then he turned and walked out of the gallery. The moment he disappeared through the door, the tension in the room broke. Conversations slowly resumed. Toria leaned closer to me. Her voice was almost a whisper. Well done. But I didn't feel proud. I felt something else. Something heavy. 'Cause in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I hadn't just fooled Mark. I had rejected him. Rejected my old life. Chosen Emily. Later that night, I sat alone in my room staring at the mirror again. The same question echoed in my mind over and over. When did pretending stop and becoming start? Because when Mark said my old name, felt strange, distant, like he was talking about someone else entirely. And that realization scared me more than anything else. But the real storm hadn't even started yet. Because the next morning, Toria told me something that changed everything again. Emily, she said calmly, it's time the world officially meets you. I frowned. What do you mean? Her smile was slow, strategic. Next week, you'll appear with me at the biggest fashion event of the year. My stomach tightened. The press will be there. Investors. Media. Everyone. She looked directly into my eyes. And that's when you'll officially become my daughter. The week before the fashion event felt like preparing for a war. Every day was rehearsals, interviews practice, runway etiquette, media training. Clara drilled posture and movement into me until it became instinct. Daniel kept refining my voice until even recordings sounded completely natural. By the time the event approached, I realized something shocking. Emily didn't feel like a disguise anymore. She felt real. Still, the pressure was terrifying. Victoria's fashion gala wasn't just another party. It was the biggest event of the year. Designers, celebrities, investors, and most importantly, the media. Hundreds of cameras. One mistake could expose everything. The night finally arrived. The mansion buzzed with activity. Stylists rushed around like a swarm of bees. Hair, makeup, jewelry, dresses. Every detail had to be perfect. When they finally handed me the gown I'd be wearing, I forgot how to breathe. It was breathtaking. A deep silver evening gown that shimmered under the lights like liquid starlight. The fabric hugged my figure perfectly, flowing elegantly to the floor. Even the stylists paused to admire it. This is the one, Clara whispered. They helped me step into it carefully. The zipper slid into place. Jewelry sparkled against my neck. My hair was styled into soft waves that framed my face beautifully. When I turned toward the mirror, I barely recognized the person staring back. She looked confident, graceful, beautiful. A woman who belonged on magazine covers and red carpets. Not the desperate guy who had signed that contract months ago. Clara stood beside me, smiling proudly. You've come a long way. My voice was quiet. I'm still scared. That's normal. She adjusted the dress slightly. But tonight you show the world who you are. The door opened. Toria walked in. She stopped when she saw me. For a moment, even she looked impressed. Then she nodded slowly. Perfect. Her eyes softened slightly. You're ready. Sighed, the sound of flashing cameras and reporters filled the air. Car ride to the event was silent. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my chest. Toria finally spoke. You understand what tonight means. I nodded. If I mess this up, you won't. Her confidence was absolute. But remember something. She looked directly at me. You're not pretending anymore. Those words echoed inside my mind as the car pulled up to the entrance. Bright lights flooded the windows. Cameras flashed like lightning. The driver opened the door. "Miss Hale, we've arrived." Victoria stepped out first. Porters immediately started shouting questions. "Victoria, over here. Who's the girl with you tonight? Is this your daughter?" My stomach twisted. Victoria turned toward the car. Then she extended her hand toward me. "Come, Emily." For a moment, I hesitated. Not because I was scared of the cameras, but because I realized something important. If I stepped out of that car, the world would never see me as the old me again. Alex would disappear completely. Only Emily would remain. But then I remembered the past months. The dinners. Conversations. Confidence growing inside me. The girl in the mirror who didn't feel fake anymore. Slowly, I took her hand and stepped out. Cameras exploded. Flashes everywhere. Porters shouting questions. But instead of panic, something strange happened. I smiled. Not the nervous smile I had practiced. A real one. Victoria raised her hand slightly to quiet the reporters. Then she said the words that changed everything. "I would like you all to meet someone very important." She placed her arm around me. "My daughter." For a split second, the crowd went silent. Then the cameras started flashing even faster. Questions flew through the air. "Emily, how long have you been involved with the company? Are you joining the fashion division? Will you be appearing in future campaigns?" I answered calmly, gracefully, just like we had practiced. But inside, something deeper was happening. The fear was gone. The doubt was gone. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. Emily wasn't a role anymore. She was me. Later that night, after the event ended, Victoria and I stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The lights stretched endlessly across the skyline. "You handled that perfectly," she said quietly. I leaned against the railing. "I was terrified. But you didn't show it." She paused, then asked something unexpected. "Do you regret signing the contract?" I thought about it carefully. About Alex. About the life I had before. Then I looked down at the elegant gown I was still wearing. The heels. Confidence I felt inside my own skin. Finally, I smiled softly. "No." Victoria nodded slowly. I suspected that. The wind moved gently through the night air. For the first time since this crazy journey began, I felt calm, free. 'Cause the truth was, they needed a girl. So they chose me. But somewhere along the way, I stopped pretending to be her. I became her. And strangely enough, it was the best decision I ever made.